How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Let's get right into the Pokemon news because it is way too warm to be doing this right now. So let's get right into it. Starting things off, we have ourselves a brand new trademark, which, FYI, if you do not know, this is essentially what they have to do to make sure that whatever project they're working on doesn't get, like, how do I say this? Stolen, right? They have to trademark a certain name. Otherwise, somebody else could use it, even though I don't think you could really use the name Pokemon in anything officially without getting in trouble because the name Pokemon itself is already trademarked. So, yeah. Either way, a new trademark has been filed by Game Freak for Pokémon Spot, which is an interesting naming scheme, to say the least. The category is supposed to be used for electronic video games and applications, which means this is a video game related thing. This is not like related to the like the card game and stuff, the TCG. This is directly related to some form of video game, right? If it's going to be a mobile game, we don't know. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's interesting. Also, Central says whatever this is, it's not Karasu. Now, Karasu, if you do not know, is a rumored like project that's also being worked on, which is essentially a code name for an upcoming game and stuff. But interestingly enough, we do have some other stuff as well here. So, news, there are 3 new trademarks actually by Nintendo creators at Game Freak. One of them is Coral Basin. The other one is, hey, aren't you from Team Rocket Gang? And the last one is Pokemon Spot, which is really, really interesting. So one of these, Coral Basin, I don't know, it doesn't mention what it's listed for. I think there are other tweets as well that bring some stuff up. They also say apparently that the Bandai Scale World Palkia Dialga figures are announced in Japan to coming out. So maybe it could be related to that. I don't think so. Because Coral Basin, I don't know. That's the only one I don't know what it's related to. There's also this other one, which is, hey, wait, are you with Team Rocket? Which could be like a short animated like movie or something like that. Or maybe it's related to the TCG. There's no mention of it though. But Pokemon Spot is the interesting one, what it could be related to. And there are a few theories from a few different people as to what it could relate to. One of the people is actually Billy, which if you guys do not know, Billy is an insider. The problem with Billy though is, how do I say this? Billy has information, but Billy really enjoys shitposting. Because he enjoys shitposting, you don't really know when you can trust what he says to be real and when he's just talking out of his, rear end. Sometimes it's a bit confusing. I love the guy, but he does make it very hard to know what he is talking about and if you can trust what he's saying, because a lot of times he does give leaks, but you don't actually know what he's saying. So here he said Karasu is here, but that does not necessarily mean that that Karasu, whatever Karasu is, in the context of this Pokemon leaks and stuff. So we're going to look up Pokemon Karasu and just show you what the rumors are about it. Not Karasu, but geez. So here it is. Karasu, this was like 3 months ago when people had their theories. One of the people, Project Karasu Generation 5 Remakes, they will shadow drop it. This is just somebody's thoughts. But if you look up mostly here, like some other people's thoughts and stuff, this is from Soul Silver. Of course, you guys may know Soul. But he says, Project Karasu and a Murkrow, because we did have a tweet from Ball Guy saying that before this week's announcement, let's take a moment to look forward to the next mainline project, Project Karasu, which is implying that the next mainline project is another, it's like another Pokemon game, like a big game, right? After Winds and Waves. But he said, but here's what the theory was. Karasu means crow in Japanese. Also, I personally think Murkrow isn't here by chance and could be the mascot of the project. Here are the options in my opinion. Karasu is the code name for Gaia's Gen 10 DLC. In the timeline, we did see an unnamed Gaia DLC. However, there was also info in the timeline that suggested that, you know what, actually I'm going to take this off, that suggested that from Scarlet and Violet onwards, devs will be making the base game with programming the DLC in mind. Also, this Karasu name seems like a newly created code name, didn't exist in 2024. Lastly, the DLC is not technically considered a full mainline game, so maybe a project though. But if it is a Gaia DLC based on the name and Murkrow, could this be a DLC in Johto? I don't know. Karasu, option number 2, I guess, is a new project that replaces the Gaia DLC. We know for Game Freak like to change things up. Like, for example, back in the day, we had third versions like Emerald, Crystal, stuff like that. And then Black and White 2, the sequel games. And then you had the remakes. And then you, of course, have the DLC now, right? Which replaces essentially the third versions. Both Scarlet and Violet and ZA DLC weren't exactly successful, which is true. They did not do that great. Could Karasu be an entirely new mainline project for 2027, related to but not simply DLC for Gaia? What if this is the evolution of the third version? So that actually is very, very possible, that whatever this Karasu game is, that it could potentially be like a third version. But I do wonder though if that's the case, given that this whole Pokemon Spot thing now, according to Billy, is related to this. However, on the other hand, Centro says it's not related, so who knows? Blaze says, let me guess, another mobile game that will be forgotten in a few days. It could be possible. It could be possible that it's that, but who knows? The other thing he says here, though, is Ringo L3 was cut or reworked into Karasu. If we're sticking to the timeline plans, technically the next mainline Pokemon game is supposed to be the Legends Galar game, which is Ringo, because like I said, DLC is technically not considered a full mainline game, which is true. So if Karasu is the game where Ringo should be, it's possible that the idea of Ringo was cut and replaced with Karasu. Now, Ball Guy has said that Legends 3 will still be in production, so it doesn't mean the Legend 3 is just cut, but just that Ringo concept might be from it. So, no AI Horde battles and possibly no Galar. Maybe the old Legends Johto concept has been revived for Legends 3, or like I said, maybe Karasu is a reworked Ringo, or maybe Karasu is just an unrelated thing, or who knows. But yeah, enough about the project name, but it's still set in Galar and in the same plot and IDs. I mean, we'll see, right? But the fact that he says Karasu is here is interesting. And people are just like, don't even joke, lad. Didn't you say that you'd leave Karasu info for BG to share? Something about here in quotes is confusing me. I read spot to mean like TV spot. Perhaps there are replacing the main Pokemon presents as smaller, more common occurrences. That's actually interesting. Then again, that doesn't really make sense because the trademark is trademarked for video game and applications, and Pokemon Spot doesn't really like it sounds like it could be like a little Pokemon Presents type switch up like the person just suggested, but it doesn't really make sense because if you think about it, why would they trademark that for video games and applications and not under media and television or animation or something, right? That would make more sense. This doesn't really fit. A video game or an app most likely seems like the more likely case, but the fact that he says Karasu is here, again, is here in the quotation marks here means that like they're connected, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're the same thing. It could be that this Pokemon Spot game connects in some way to whatever this Karasu game is or this project is. That is a high possibility, right? But who knows? Also, an interesting thing he tweeted was the Galarian birds are paradox forms, which is an interesting thing to say. So the Galarian birds, referring to the Galarian birds from the second DLC of Pokemon Sword and Shield, with Articuno, Moltres, and Daptos getting their Galarian bird forms or whatever. And he's trying to say that they're actually paradox forms, which paradox forms were the thing we got in Scarlet and Violet with like, paradoxical Pokemon that were like from the future and the past and all that. But yeah, I don't know if that's really true. I don't know, man. I mean, he knows something, so we'll see. But let's see if we have anything else, because I do know there's a few people that have theories about this. I think one of the people actually is Soul, interesting enough. I think he had a theory about this whole thing especially. So let's see if we can find it. Here it is. So here is what he had to say about it. He says, Pokemon Spot is a new trademark for Game Freak. Apparently this is a video game trademark. I wonder if it's just for the yearly mobile game, or could this be a surprise 30th anniversary game for the end of the year? Maybe we'll find out sooner rather than later. Then here it says P30 as in Pokemon or Project, and this was 15 hours ago, tweeted by Ball Guy. This is interesting. So P30 as in Pokemon or Project, and here's what he says. And this was about the whole thing. If anyone who finds this has a shred of care about it, I believe this project will be known as P30. Omori has some role overseeing its development as well. So, okay. If anyone who finds this has a shred of care about it, I believe this project is known as P30. Omori had some role overseeing its development as well. So somebody says, so specifically for the anniversary, I see, it's not Legends 3. Pokemon Spot is similar to maybe Go, a bird-watching app, but for Pokemon IRL. Is it watchable or playable? Again, it does seem like it seems like Ball Guy is leaning into one direction, and then the other fella, Billy's leaning in a different direction, which I don't know, man. It's a weird situation. It could be anything. I don't know, because again, P30 as in Pokemon or Project. Again, who knows? Because P30, I mean, Pokemon 30, right? 30th anniversary, I guess, is what that's related to, known as P30. I'm going to make a wild guess here that this is some kind of game, like some sort of mobile app that maybe connects to Karasu, right? Like to the whatever that next project is. And this is going to drop this year, this app or whatever it is, and then be connected to that project. At least that seems to be the implication here, but who actually knows? I mean, we're going to have to wait and see if anything comes from it. But for now, that's essentially it. I don't think I've missed anything necessarily. So that's that. Now we're going to move on to the next thing, which is going to be this post right here. Apparently, the new Pokemon animated series from Aardman have been revealed, which is going to be a little like kind of like a puppet animation of Sirfetch'd and Pichu. So that's going to be coming out very soon. They just revealed like the poster for it and stuff, so that's that. Other than that, we of course already spoke a bit about the new figurines that are going to be coming out in Japan. Beyond that, there is also Game Freak are again hiring, high school, graduates, right? Anybody's graduating like college, whatever, they're hiring people now for new positions over there, which is always like good to see that they're hiring young people, young talent, young individuals that, you know, have just finished their education and not just like asking, hey, do you have 75 years worth of work experience already? Because otherwise you can't work here. Good to see that new people, new blood is coming in, always useful. But again, that is at least a little bit of that. Other than that, though, we do have some interesting stuff here. For example, a bit of a thought from none else than Light saying, hey, hopefully we'll be able to tame our Pokemon in Winds and Waves. I doubt we will, but it's cool to see that they did have some sort of animations here. I'm not going to play this animation necessarily, but what it does show, though, actually, I'm just going to play it fucking. So it shows an animation of like, a Charizard being essentially petted without really the Charizard, model really doing any reaction. I'm assuming they're just using a pre-existing animation here because this animation kind of reminds me of the Mixamo animations, which I've used a few times for like background characters and animations for my other channel. But other than that, it's kind of weird to see, especially this like default model. But other than that, it would be cool to see if we have sort of interactions like this with our Pokemon in Winds and Waves, because that would add more like it would make the world feel more alive in a game like Pokemon, which we've kind of needed because the game's because of the lack of just like the world in Pokemon games has not felt alive in a very long time. I feel like the Pokemon games have just felt kind of like bland, and the worlds have felt like they're just like, you feel like you're playing a video game and not like you're actually lost in this real world that exists and this place that you could imagine actual people like being within. It all feels sort of mumbo jumbo in a sense, but I would hope that they add stuff like this, features like this to sort of actually enhance it. And we did also have what the original plan was for like the riding mechanic for Legends EA, which never ended up happening. So maybe in the future we'll get something like that. Other than that, though, again, we've spoken a bit about the Pokemon Spot thing. I don't think we've really missed anything important. I think everything's been mentioned. The Coral Basin thing is the only one I'm a little bit confused about. Like the "Hey, are you from Team Rocket" thing, like that just sounds like it could be anything. Could be like a piece of merchandise, could be something like super unimportant. Pokemon Spot is the only one here that's like truly the one where I'm like, okay, this one could be something, right? This could be something, but for now, it is what it is. The last thing, though, we're going to look at is from Moot, who says, after looking at everything that's leaked, as well as some of the rumors and stuff, it's pretty clear that Pokemon Winds and Waves is Scarlet Violet 2 structure-wise, which, with the Sun and Moon story beats and theming, I feel like I can probably predict a large portion of the game will go as well as characters. Well, that's just his own theory. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the case. But, it is what it is. And I don't think we missed anything from him either in terms of other stuff that needs to be mentioned. But I think that's pretty much that. Again, we've already spoken about some of the mechanics that are going to be coming up. So, for example, one of the potential new mechanics, the Majin mechanic, as you can already see here, Pokemon battle gimmicks have been in here since the Mega Evolution was introduced in Gen 6, which is a temporary power boost, and also your Pokemon transforming into a new evolution. There's also Z moves, which is like a big attack. Dynamax, which increases the size of your Pokemon, and Dynamax, which increases the size of Pokemon, but also changes its form. And then Terastallization, which is type adapting and strategic flexibility. That's at least where it refers to it. But the gimmick that we know is most likely going to be coming based on the leaks is the, of course, Majin gimmick, codenamed Majin gimmick, a new battle system built around controlling the environment through thermal energy, known as Netsu. By harnessing Netsu, trainers can manipulate winds and waves, creating dynamic battlefield effects and enhancing attacks, altering conditions, and open up new strategic possibilities. So we'll see how that feature is going to work once we actually get our hands on it. For now, we know nothing. And then the final thing we're going to talk about is, of course, a topic that you guys may already remember, which is about the the prequel anime leaks for Pokemon Winds and Waves, that the story in Winds and Waves is related to time travel, and there'll be a prequel anime to the games, similar to the Twilight Wings anime, which will tell the backstory of the professor and the champion of the region, which I think are the same person or some shit like that. Or actually, no, I think they're unrelated. I think the champion time travels. But yeah, also apparently, new alleged leaks are circulating online regarding future Pokemon projects, anime and movies, and the plot of Winds and Waves' games. According to the latest rumors, the plot of Winds and Waves will involve time travel, and the theme will be explored in a prequel anime series. Now, the prequel anime anime, similar to Pokemon Twilight Wings, will tell the story of the professor and the champions' past. Then, the main character of the prequel anime series will be the professor, the champion, and a young girl. The professor is a 14-year-old in the, I guess, the anime or whatever, while the champion is 20. At the end of the series, 30 years before the events of the games, the professor is sent back in time when we meet him in the games. He will be older than the champion. In 2027, a new movie based on Pokemon's TCG, trading card game, will be released. So yeah, this is stuff we heard from Moot the other day as well. Pretty much nothing to add really to that. Other than that, we'll see how it all turns out and if it all actually happens. I mean, we're probably going to see like trailers for this kind of stuff probably next year, because Winds and Waves, you know, and everything is not going to be seen until next year. Most likely we're not going to see a trailer anytime soon. So we'll see how it all turns out when we get to it. But for now, that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. I'll be seeing you all, guys, in the next one. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.